My mom spent all my pension money on her boyfriends and kicked me out when I turned 18. And now that I've inherited my father's estate, she's demanding I move back in and give her all the money so she can enjoy life. My life has always been full of struggles. My father passed away when I was only 10 years old, and since then, my mother had been receiving a monthly pension in my name. At the time, I believed that money was being used for my well-being, but as I grew older, I realized that wasn't the case. My mom had a weakness for problematic men. She went from one relationship to another, and each new boyfriend was more irresponsible than the last. They lived in our house, didn't work, and spent the money that was supposed to be mine. I watched my pension being wasted on expensive clothes, fancy dinners, and even gifts for her boyfriends. Meanwhile, I wore worn-out school uniforms and barely had supplies to study. When I turned 18, my mom dropped a bombshell on me. She told me that now that I was an adult, the pension would stop and she couldn't afford to support me anymore. That same week, she kicked me out of the house. I had nowhere to go, so I crashed on friends' couches and, at times, even slept on the streets. It was one of the hardest times of my life, but I swore I wouldn't give up. I found a part-time job, finished high school, and with a lot of effort, got into college. Years passed, and I finally managed to stabilize my life. I rented a small apartment and was slowly building a future for myself. Then, out of nowhere, I received shocking news. My father, who I thought hadn't left anything behind, had actually set aside an inheritance for me. He had life insurance and investments that could only be accessed when I turned 25. When I got the money, it felt like I could finally breathe. I paid off my debts, bought a used car, and even started planning my dream trip. But, as always, my mom showed up to ruin everything. She called me crying. Click on share and more for part 2.